Hope everybody's doing well today. I want to welcome everybody to the Unimpressed podcast, and I want to welcome Ali Stone to the podcast today. And Ali Stone is a producer, singer, songwriter, DJ, originally from Colombia. And I'm unimpressed that we haven't done any music together because we have a few artists in our camp that we work with and produce some sounds and so forth. So how are you doing today?
Good. I'm happy to be here in the podcast with you and to be able to share with everybody, every of the listeners of Unimpressed. So yeah, it's a good day. And today is a pretty day in LA.
Well, it's funny you talk about being in LA, and we were at dinner last night and there was a couple sitting beside us. And we just recently moved the studio from the New York City area to Charleston, South Carolina. This couple was sitting beside me and I started talking to them, and their dinner came and I said, I don't want to bother you because, I don't want to interrupt your dinner. And they're like, oh, talk to us. We just got here. We're from LA. I can't believe there's people out having dinner, having fun. I want to talk to you. So they sat there while they ate their steak or whatever and talked to me pretty much the whole time they were eating. And they were telling me that LA has nothing going on. So they've been stuck in their apartment since last year. And tell me a little bit about that. And is that the same scenario for you over there in LA? And what part of LA are you in right now?
Yeah, I'm actually super close to Santa Monica and located in West LA. Yeah, honestly, I haven't been out that much since the pandemic started. Also, mainly because I have my studio here in my house. So I got to work from home since the pandemic started, basically. But yeah, I've been very cautious into if I have to go out or maybe record for a session, I'm always wearing my mask and everything and my hand sanitizer because I haven't had COVID yet. So I want to keep it that way. But yeah, even since the pandemic started, I started doing mostly Zoom sessions and virtual sessions because it was the easiest way to keep everybody safe. And with technology, it's become super accessible to do remote sessions of recording artists in any part of the world, basically.
Doing music, especially virtual, do you feel like you have somewhat of a dilution of product based on not having any interaction with people?
Yeah, there's not the human in-person interaction where in sessions we would, grab coffee or have a mini break and talk about life. That, of course, it helps a lot in the creation of music since it comes from such an emotional place. But I've found a way to kind of even get to have those talks even in the Zoom session. It's to be able to know the artist. And I've noticed that in Zoom sessions, I don't know if people are kind of more focused because nobody wants to spend many hours on Zoom. So songs are written out super fast. And since everybody's kind of in their own space, there's no process since people can go grab their food in their home and do stuff while being on the session. Nobody has to stop. So I've noticed that sessions have gotten quicker since the pandemic started, basically on Zoom. Songs happen super fast. And I'm also able to work on the production faster since I have basically my studio here. So I get to record all of the instruments while the artist is recording the vocal, for example.
So do you make all your own beats and sounds and right there in your apartment?
Yeah, I basically make all the production here. And I'm also a multi-instrumentalist. So I think that's super useful to even get to kind of make the production, the initial production of the demo to be even fully produced. Because I get to record all of the instruments, drums or bass, guitar, to have the full idea of this is how the song is supposed to sound. And usually for my own project that I have with my electronic music, I also mix and master my songs here. So yeah, this is basically my creative space that where all the magic happens.
Now, do you have family members who are musicians or creatives? Where does this passion of making music come from?
I feel this passion around music did start thanks to my family. My mom actually played piano when she was young, and in my house back in Colombia, we have her piano, like her upright piano that she used when she was little. So there was always a piano in my place, and we also had a Spanish guitar, a classical guitar that a friend gave to my dad, also like when he was young. So kind of like music was already there in my house in Colombia. So it was very accessible, like for me to start playing since a very young age. And I actually began with classes, like classical piano classes when I was 4, then guitar when I was 7. It was kind of like already there. And in my family, well, as I told you, my mom played piano. My mom's brothers, my uncles, all played also piano, violin, guitar. Some of they sang. And on my dad's side, all of his sisters played piano too. And yeah, my older sister also sings. My little sister was like into musical theater. So it was kind of like music was always in my family, even if it wasn't like the main career, because my parents are, well, my dad is a cardiologist, my mom is a psychologist. My little sister started business. I even started business in university, but it was kind of like music was always there. And I started to embrace like this passion a lot. And I'm like very, very passionate about things I love. So that's how I actually ended up going into music production, because I found this new hobby of like remixing songs and like rethinking the production of a song. And then this hobby began to become more serious, and it turned out into my actual job right now. So yeah, I think it was all about like that discipline and that perseverance that I always embrace around music that actually made me have music as my career now.
Now, before you came to the U.S. and got the influence of the U.S. tone and sound, do you think your sound was more worldly, and then you came to the U.S. and it changed a little bit, but still having some of those worldly elements?
I think actually even before living in the U.S., my sound was already like more kind of like eclectic, because since I was little, I remember I would listen to a lot of vinyls from ABBA, that my mom loved ABBA, so I would listen to ABBA, to the Beatles. My dad has all the vinyl collection of the Beatles. Also like Rolling Stones, the Ramones, even Patsy Cline, that my mom loved country music too. So I listened to a lot of music in English when I was little. And of course, mixing that with Colombian music, it gave me kind of like a wide variety of sounds from a young age. And then when I started like to study each instrument, for example, with piano, I went on to classical. But then when I started guitar, I went to study blues and jazz and kind of like hard rock. And I learned like all of the guitar solos from AC/DC and like Guns N' Roses and everything. So I already had like this palette of colors of sounds basically. So then, like when I began with the production, it was like a blessing that I had listened to so much music since little, because I already had like this full landscape of like, okay, maybe I can choose this sound if I want to go in this direction or that way. So arriving here in the US was like already, like I came already like packed like with all of these sounds and like my career that I began since 2013. But I do feel that being here in the US opened my world much more to hip hop and to R&B, that back in Colombia, like that wasn't that big. Like maybe, even when I lived back in Colombia, like it was more about like top 40 music and like pop music. So I feel like being here in the US gave me like that window into more of like hip hop and R&B production.
Now, have you ever heard of an artist called, I think it's Danna, Danit?
No, I haven't.
You haven't heard that? I'm trying to think of one I've heard that kind of has that worldly, like, feel-good sound. We were listening to it here. What are some of the big artists in Colombia that have a very cultural sound just for that area that you would say?
I'd say, well, Shakira is like my main kind of like artist from Colombia that I'd say has like that mix of like world sounds. Especially because she uses a lot of her heritage from like the Lebanon. So like she uses like all of this music that sounds more Middle Eastern into her music, because that's actually a region in Colombia comes mainly like from Lebanese heritage. And I think many people don't know that like we have Arabic music in Colombia basically. So I think that's super cool from Shakira. And she also has like a wide variety of like genres and styles. Also Carlos Vives that does vallenato. Vallenato is a folkloric rhythm from Colombia. Toto La Momposina does cumbia. Even Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto, they're from Los Llanos, which is another region from Colombia. Like I feel listening like to these different artists that I've mentioned to you, they all have like these different styles that in the end make up the Colombian identity is, which is like this mixture of varieties of sounds. So I feel like even listening to those artists, being back in Colombia was also super useful to get to know like the different profiles that exist in Colombia and that encompass the Colombian sound basically.
Where do you see music going coming out of this pandemic? Do you see a change in anything or any styles, any sounds, anything different coming up the pike that's interesting to you?
I've noticed that like even through the pandemic, like there has been a lot of crossover of sounds and even like a lot of blending of genres where there's not a specific like division of this is only pop or this is only Latin or this is only reggaeton or this is only hip hop. Like there's been like a lot of blending and kind of like there's not any fine line anymore between one sound and the other. So I think like that's actually super cool. And even seeing, for example, artists going to the like Spanish speaking market, like Hispanic market, for example, Selena Gomez that released an EP fully in Spanish. I think that's super cool because in the end, it's kind of like artists are embracing like these different sounds and different cultures and blending to create more music that even sounds more eclectic in the end.
Now, what are some of the big projects you're working on currently?
Well, I'm actually working on more music, not only for other artists, but also for my own artist project that I'm doing mostly with collaborations with great artists like Kat Dahlia. She's a very, very cool artist from Miami. With, for example, artists like Gaby Moreno, that's also from Guatemala. She has a more alternative sound. And I'm also working on music that I've made for other artists. There's one called Nicole Fabre. She's a Peruvian artist that's more in the R&B hip hop sound, but in Spanish. So I feel that's super cool because it's also kind of like a different Latin sounding artist. And working on more projects too on the general market. There's a couple ones that are coming out next month that I can't mention yet publicly, but I will post about them as soon as they come out.
Do you like performing better, producing? Where do you get excited the most, performing or producing?
I think it's like a different kind of excitement that I get from each one because, well, in the production part, I love that it's basically like that creative space where the song comes to reality, where I transform all my ideas into something that I can actually listen to. So I think like that's the magic of production, like to be able to convey an emotional message that I have in my head into something people can listen, and to be able to blend all these sounds and even experiment on like recording weird stuff and sampling and doing like crazy layering and such to bring a song to life. So I really get excited about that. And on the performance side, I love to be able to perform my music and basically receive people's reaction with my music, because it's kind of like the aftermath of like, okay, I created like this baby, basically my music, and now I get to play it in front of people and to see like people scream and like to even feel their energy like towards this creation. It's also like super rewarding. So yeah, that's why I also love performing. It's a shame that like with the pandemic, like all shows are over basically. Yeah, they'll start again soon. I've done a couple of shows on live stream. But yeah, like in that case, I feel it's not the same because there's no audience kind of like giving you that energy. So yeah, like comparing that, like I'd say production, like virtual production is much more like exciting than virtual performance basically.
Gotcha. And I gotta ask you something. With you growing up in Colombia, are you and your family very spiritual people? Because you're talking about energy and so forth. And a buddy of mine just went to Peru to go down there to do ayahuasca ceremony. Is that culturally known and talked about in the communities in Colombia?
Yeah, I feel like, especially because of like the indigenous like communities that are still present, not only in Colombia, but yeah, like in Peru, in Mexico, in Ecuador, like we still have like that spirituality of like connecting like to our Mother Earth, basically. And also like Latin American countries are like more like very religious, I feel. So there's certainly like that stronger spirituality, I feel, that people grow up with, like it's part of the culture basically.
Now you're in LA. Do you miss that goodness, that home cooking, so if you will?
Yeah, I definitely miss that, and kind of like that that feeling of like the family bonds are very strong. Like in Latin America, like we are very familiar. So like even, for example, in Colombia, people don't move out of their parents' house until basically like they're older. I've seen here in the US, people move out of their house like when they're going to college. But I basically moved out of my parents' house when I moved to the US. But like when I went to college and university, like I was still at my parents' house. And yeah, like there's kind of like this union. And yeah, I'm like super close to my sisters too and all of the family. And yeah, I do miss that, especially because yeah, Colombia is super far away from LA. It's like 8 hours by plane. So it's not like I could say like, oh, I feel like visiting my family this weekend, because it's like, yeah, going like taking such a long trip and also like more expensive and everything. But I'm actually super excited that they're going to come visit me in May. So yeah, I'm excited that I'm going to be able to see them again after more than a year that I haven't seen them.
Nice. So how long have you been in LA?
I've been here in LA for like 3 years and a month, basically.
Now, are you married, boyfriend, you kids?
Yeah. No, not married. I do have a boyfriend, but yeah, not married yet.
And has the relationship aspect of your life, has that been difficult during the pandemic in LA?
No, it's actually been great. And I'm glad to see that like we passed the test of the pandemic, basically, because I did see people that either like the pandemic brought them closer or together or broke them apart. It was kind of like those two aspects happened. But I'm glad that with my case, like it brought us together. So that was great.
So y'all made it through. Y'all didn't kill each other then.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think a lot of people really found out who they were with during this whole thing, you know?
Exactly, especially like being closed in the same space, or like, yeah, in a moment where there's so much uncertainty. Yeah, it was kind of like true colors of people came out to like be visible. So yeah, I think we passed the test.
I'm reading on here, you worked with some pretty big names. Who is the most impressive talent that you've worked with?
I feel each artist has like their star basically, and like there's a thing that makes them shine. In terms of songwriters, I feel working with Priscilla Renee, who goes now by the artist name of Money Long. She's amazing. And when I got to write with her for Mary J. Blige, like I was just blown away of like her talent to come up with ideas, like writing ideas and melodies like super fast. And she was also like so humble and so down to earth and so kind, that I feel like that was like a beautiful experience of working with her in that. And in terms of artists, I think like there's 3 top Latin artists that I've had the pleasure to work with that are Danna Paola, Cami, and this girl that I was mentioning, Nicole Faure, the Peruvian artist. that have an amazing control of their vocals. It's their main instrument, but it's been like such a pleasure to work with them, because if I tell them like to do this harmony or this other arrangement, like they make it super quick and they're super on tune. So it also makes my job easier. So like, okay, I don't have to tune this vocal that much, or like they get their ideas like super quick and they really know their instrument, which is their voice. So I think that's amazing. Like when an artist really knows their craft, because it makes it like super pleasurable to work with them.
What made you post up in LA compared to posting up in Miami?
Yeah, I think it was mostly like that LA has like this kind of like variety of cultures like all around, and kind of like alternative market that you get to make, even like Latin or like pop, rock, R&B, hip hop, like kind of like all of the genres are mixing, because LA has like a huge mix of cultures and nationalities of people from different places. And I also make music for movies, for video games, for TV, for sync, basically. So when I was like looking for like options of cities like to move into, that's what basically LA like struck to me the most, because it was like, okay, in LA I get to basically do everything, like not just one specific sound or one specific genre, but actually like any of like my different working spaces can be like fruitful in LA.
And what is your business strategy? Do you have a daily structure? Because I know, music has changed over the years drastically on how it's distributed, and a lot of people are doing a lot of things themselves. Are you on social media yourself, and do you have a plan every day and steps you go through every day to run your business?
I do try to keep kind of like a schedule of like my to-do list, basically, of like things that I have to get done in the day. Mainly with, for example, the productions. If I have like pending demos or like sessions, I arrange everything so that I can basically make the most out of each day. And I also have kind of like the mornings, I have them separate for example, emails and like kind of like that business side of like, okay, I have to like respond to these emails or like have registered all my songs and everything, because I also want my own publishing. So like making sure like all that business side is like running well. And then usually on the afternoons, it's when I have the sessions or when I work on the productions. And I also kind of like leave like an ample space like in the afternoons for those sessions, because there are sessions that are super quick and short, but there's also other sessions that may take longer. And in the end, like you never know like the final schedule of like, oh, this session is going to be like 2 hours long, or this session is going to be 5 hours long, where I have like that wiggle room of like not being like rushing sessions or like being stressed, like, oh, I got to finish this or that. And I've tried recently, like especially since the pandemic started, like to sleep earlier, because before I would usually go to sleep like at 3 a.m. because of work, basically. And even like with my shows as DJ and everything, like super late. But now, that kind of like things have become a little bit quicker, even with the Zoom sessions that I mentioned. I'm trying to sleep before 12 or before 12, like at least around 11 p.m. It's like, okay, I try to go to bed.
Nice. And you handle your own publishing. Do you do that through TuneCore or one of these online distributing mechanisms?
Yeah, I have my own publishing with ASCAP, actually, which is like one of the PROs here in the US. So I'm as a writer and as a publisher on ASCAP. And I basically, register, claim everything on the ASCAP portal. Like they have a portal where you can claim the royalties. And for example, if there was a performance or if songs have been released on platforms and everything, like you send a claim, a report, basically. So I do that with them. And then with my music distribution, I do everything with Create Music Group. They're also based here in LA. And yeah, like all the YouTube monetization and everything, I do them with them.
Okay, nice. What are things looking like for you the next three months, kind of easing out of this pandemic? Hopefully things are going to open up more. What's your goals the next couple months?
Yeah, well, hopefully in the next couple months that, yeah, kind of like things are starting to open again and everything. I'd love to be able to travel again, to especially even like for example, certain sessions where they do like song camps or yeah, like sessions remotely, like in Miami or like in New York. I'd love to be able like to just travel in peace and not be worried like, oh my God, I'm gonna get COVID or something. And yeah, also like to be able to visit to Latin America again, to Colombia, Mexico, even if it's for sessions or hopefully for shows soon. I'm hoping I get to be able to play back again my live shows again in places, hopefully soon. And yeah, of course, accompanying all of that with more music that I'm going to release in my artist project.
Cool. Well, good luck with your project. And
thank you.
If you're out here on the East Coast, let me know. I'd like to come check out a live show, and see what it's all about. Have you got any spots that you're thinking about touring or going to?
Well, hopefully, like the usual spots that I would visit, like with my shows and everything, would be, in the East Coast. I do like New York, Boston, and I hope, well, even Washington, D.C., like I hope I can be able to visit those places again, especially with festivals, like, for example, the EDC that I played a while back. Like all of the festivals organized by Insomniac are super cool. Of course, they're like in bigger spaces. So yeah, hopefully those can happen again. So I'm able to visit the East Coast again after such a long time. And yeah, also like visit more parts of the West Coast, even like, yeah, go back to Miami, to ultra events that I played like a few years ago too, so that I'm able to move again into that performance life.
Yeah, that's what we're all looking for. Well,
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we didn't talk about before we jump off here that you'd like to put out there?
I think we covered everything basically, like about my music, my career. If you'd like to listen like to my music that I've released before, as an artist, you find everything on platforms, as Ali Stone. And there's also a couple of playlists of the songs I've produced by other people. For example, there's one in Apple Music called Behind the Board, and with my name, where you can listen like to the stuff I produced, and Spotify too. And in Tidal with the credits, it's super easy like to browse like songs produced or written by me. And I think that's basically it. And if you ever want to send me music or like reach out to me, if you have a question about production, mixing, like whatever it is, you can hit me up on Instagram. It's Alice Stone. I'm always checking my messages there. So if you want to talk, just hit me up there.
Cool. And your website is alistonemusic.com. You can go there and pretty much find everything. It's Ali Stone. And Ali, I want to thank you for being on the Unimpressed podcast. And I'm John Edmonds Cosma, the CEO of Bang Productions.